Hey guys, what's up? So this video, I'm gonna go over the 3 big long jump mistakes that I'm always correcting with my athletes at practice and at meets. So for those that don't know me, my name is Fallon Headings. I'm a physical therapist and a track and field coach. So let's get started. My 3 biggest things that I'm always correcting during long jump is, I wrote extra ped step, but being too extra. I guess that's the phrase that kids use these days, but being too extra on your penultimate step. So those last 2 steps of your approach, if you exaggerate your penultimate step too much, you're gonna lose speed. And that is the most crucial thing, as I see so many athletes do such a great penultimate step, but they lose so much speed that they're slow off the board. And remember, with long jump, your speed is what takes you out. Your penultimate step is what takes you up, but you need that perfect mix of both of them. So you can't lose speed on your penultimate step. If you see yourself slowing down, a lot of times I can even hear it. A lot of times I won't even be watching my athletes and I'll turn around and I'll be like, "You're too slow." And they look at me like, "What? How did you even know you weren't watching me?" Because I could hear their steps slow down. And you can do that in a video. So take a video of yourself doing a long jump or watch your video and see if you hear your steps further apart rather than your previous steps on your runway. And if you hear your steps further apart or you're taking too much time during your penultimate step and dropping your hips too much, you're losing speed, and that's a crucial mistake that you can't have. You need to be at your top speed at takeoff at the board. So the next thing is actually I've been fighting with all my athletes this year, is their old coach must have always said that they have a poor landing and they needed to work on their landing. But 90% of landing problems come from earlier in the jump, because if you don't have enough time in the air to perfect your landing, no matter how hard you try and practice your landing, if you don't have enough time, it's never gonna look good. So you have to make sure that you have enough time in the air to put a good landing on it. So do I do landing drills? Absolutely. My favorite landing drills include the t-shirt drill and broad jumps with a bungee. Those are my 2 favorite landing drills. And do we practice them all the time? Yeah, we practice them a lot, but if their takeoff isn't right, no matter how much time, their time is going to be limited in the air and their landing is always going to suffer. So make sure, if you see yourself having a poor landing over and over and over again, and you're doing your landing drills and your landing drills feel good, look earlier in the jump. It's probably a problem that happened earlier, like at takeoff. So that's another big thing that I always see with jumpers. This is also a very common mistake in the triple jump as well. So last thing with long jump is that I always see is a little bit of a reach to the board. So 90% of the time I'm always seeing people reach to the board. And that's a big thing when coaches see that they're on the board, or maybe they fouled, but they move them back but they reached. If my athlete's reaching to the board or even on the board and reaching, I move them up so they can put the foot down right underneath themselves. And that's the really big thing, is you always want to make sure that you're putting your foot down and you're not reaching to the board. I would rather my athlete put their foot down and be behind the board and get a better jump than rather reach and feel like they can't practice all of their technique, their in-flight mechanics, and their landing mechanics because they reached at the board. The minute you reach at the board, you're decreasing the amount of time you have in the air. So you really want to make sure that you're putting your foot down underneath yourself so you can get your optimal height in your jump, so you can work on your in-flight mechanics and your landing mechanics. The minute you reach at the board, this becomes a problem as well. The minute you lose speed in your penultimate step, a lot of times this becomes a problem, and then this becomes a problem. So you can see how they all correlate together. And that's where I want you always to see whatever the first problem you see is in your jump, look a step ahead to make sure that's right too. If that's wrong, look a step ahead before that to make sure that's right. You always want to make sure you start right, and then it continues right. Because once you hit a mistake, it's hard to come back and correct it from there. So those are my really big mistakes that I'm always feel like I'm repeating myself at practice and at meets with all my athletes. So if you have any more questions, hit me in the comment section, subscribe to my videos, share with all the long jumpers you know, because I want everyone to jump far. All right, see ya.